Welcome back, everybody. We are the Jocks of All Trades podcast. I'm Brad, joined by Kyle, and this is Jock Talk, the show where we kind of just do everything. Because we do everything, we have a lot to talk about. So we're just going to hop right on in with the buzz. Um, let's talk about maybe the biggest thing that there was to occur yesterday, which is it Tua's year? Is it the Dolphins' year? Is it time?
Yeah, if you watch that game, and I had money on a little bit of that game, I was 5 yards away from Chase Edmonds scoring a touchdown that would have given me like $700. So I was a little pissed. But beyond that, the Dolphins came roaring back in a fashion that I have not seen from the Dolphins, and probably since like what Marino, I'm sure, has an offense for the Dolphins have been that good. So is it their year? I don't know. It's very early to tell. I think with a lot of these teams that have new guys, new systems, new coaches, off the bat, they're going to be more successful because teams aren't prepared or ready for them. However, it's Tyreek Hill, and even if you're prepared for him, you're not prepared for him. You make one mistake on that guy, you're gone. Like he's gone, you're dead in the water. You can't do anything. Um, if you're even, he's leaving. Like there's no way to stop him. So is it the Dolphins' year? It very well could be the Dolphins' year. I'm a little bit hesitant on putting Tua in the I was completely wrong category, um, especially because both of us weren't that like against Tua for the last couple of years. We were just like, yes, he's not looking good. He's not looking as mobile. His injury history is a concern. His arm really hasn't caught up yet, but also the Dolphins haven't given him anything.
No.
Well, guess what? The Dolphins have given him pretty much everything except for his offensive line,
Yeah.
and it's showing completely because Waddle and Hill, they have to be the most dynamic duo at receiver that I've seen in some time if they keep it up. So they're going to be successful this year. They're going to be a playoff team, no doubt, barring major injuries. So.
With that being said, if you're on our mailing list, we'll be sending out this Tua Tagovailoa apology form because
Oh
I've been more hopeful that he would turn it around. You and I have both said this. If he got the right pieces, he would. So because we have never hated on Tua Tagovailoa, this is our gift to you. Feel free to fill it out, send it back to us, and we'll give you a free pass for next week. Thanks, guys.
yeah. Yeah. A lot of teams are definitely jealous of what Tua has, but like you can't recreate that. I mean, that's why so many people have tried to get the next Tyreek Hill. There's only one Tyreek Hill, and guess what? There's really only one Jalen Waddle. So you're not going to be able to recreate this. But it's really interesting to see moving forward how well they do with some tougher defenses because listen, the Ravens defense is not what it used to be or what they are known to be. Um, and like teams will be a little bit more prepared for them to stop Tua, especially. You can contain Tyreek Hill, but the goal is to stop Tua, to pressure him, and to make him mistakes. And he did make two mistakes on Sunday. So, like, it's there. And the Ravens had a historical choking game. So, like, if they're down by that much again, it's very hard to come back like that. But we do know that they're capable of doing it. So it'll be fun to see if they can continue this hot streak.
And I really can't even be mad because Tua balled out, Waddle balled out. Whatever. It happens. It was a monster game on both sides, and the Dolphins just had the momentum.
Yep.
So
they stole it and just ran with it the entire way. So.
No kidding. So I'm going to turn over to you, and then I'll just kind of comment on what you have on your quiet hit list.
It's called on my hit list, but put an S in front of the hit. We still don't swear on this podcast. At least we don't. Brad and I don't. So I'll keep that going. But literally, a lot of the stuff really made me upset on Sunday. First of all, is the Bengals. Brad, you and I have talked about time and time again. We're like, yes, Jamar Chase, we know he's good. And like, would we go back and switch him out? Maybe not, but like, you need to prioritize the offensive line. And sure, they did that in the offseason, but I'm pretty sure if we go back to older episodes, I said putting all these fillers in, like Ted Karras, Alex Kappa, Lale Collins, those are
Weirdo.
band-aids. They're not like going out and getting a stud. They're not going out and drafting a high-end tackle or guard to like cement your offensive line. I mean, look what the Chargers did. The Chargers had a really decent O-line last year, but they went out and got Zion Johnson in the draft. They went out and traded for a stud in Corey Linsley. Like, Linsley is legitimately top 5 center in the league. Slater is now probably a top 10 tackle in the league, only second year in. Like, they went out and put a lot of investments in the offensive line, and that's what you have to do, not only in the offensive line, but receiver, running back for your young quarterback, but just to see how your quarterback will do, to call the plays that you're able to with your quarterback. Because the Bengals, I mean, their plays, their best plays, their offense is really just like, let's take it one-on-one. Let's take a deep shot with Jamar, with our bevy of receivers that we have. And last year it worked. Even though Burrow got pounded into oblivion, it still worked. They were like, F it, he's going to die, but we're going to throw it up anyway. And it worked for a matter of
Well,
time.
kind of, because it didn't win him
Right.
a Super Bowl. So
Right, exactly right. And this season, it ain't working, man. It's not working at all. No running game, no offensive line. Burrow's getting beat. Micah
obliterated.
Parsons just looks like an animal. BT Dubs, he's crazy. Well, already one of the best defensive players in the game, but he was whipping everybody on that offensive line. Management, you screwed up. Zach Taylor, you're not calling the greatest plays. You're getting Joe Burrow killed. And listen, we've seen this in the NFL time and time again. Young, talented, almost proven quarterbacks, and they just get smashed and hit and hit and hit. And it can really derail a career. It derailed Andrew Luck's career. It kind of started to derail Carson Wentz's career. Maybe Carson Wentz isn't the best example, but other quarterbacks definitely, David Carr. We can go on and find guys to nitpick, but you don't want this to happen to your prized possession. And it's not looking good for the Bengals, especially considering their defense isn't the greatest either.
No.
So their offense is going to have to put up some points. So.
Well, and when you play the Steelers, whose defense is fairly certainly good, and the Cowboys, whose secondary is absolutely good, we're starting to see that people have figured out the Bengals. That's what was my takeaway. I watched the rest of that game. I watched a good chunk of Bengals Cowboys. It wasn't that Cooper Rush is some like monster of a quarterback that they just didn't know how to respond. You have Joe Burrow. They just never hit off. They never hit their mark. It just, something about it just wasn't playing right for me. But when Trayvon Diggs shuts down Jamar Chase all day, you're not going to do anything. So I am entirely with you on that. It's all the fault of upper management not equipping the Bengals with what they need, because look, Jamar Chase is great, but if you can figure out, okay, stop Jamar Chase, keep all the receivers up past the line, Burrow had nothing to do. Mixon got nowhere. P. Ryan went nowhere, and they just sputtered out against the Cowboys. That's bad.
Yeah. Cooper Rush too. That's pretty pathetic, honestly. Yeah. Especially for a Super Bowl team last year. Let's move on to the 49ers. First of all, poor Trey Lance. That is sad for his career, sad for the season. Trey Lance supporters. But listen, the little that we've seen out of Trey Lance, the best thing that not the best thing, most iconic thing, the biggest news that he's gotten is he was at a strip club throwing dollars to dancing ladies. So, like, if that's your highlight of your career so far, it's not a good start. Jimmy Garoppolo is what he is. And maybe that's all the 49ers need. I mean, they won a game in the playoffs last year against the Cowboys with Jimmy G. They got to the Super Bowl with Jimmy G. So, like, it's entirely possible the 49ers can still be a playoff team with Jimmy Garoppolo. It's possible. I didn't say it's, like, highly likely. But, like, they know what they are, and they run the ball well. Their defense is stout. Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, Kittle when he's healthy, the dynamic trio that you have. It's unfortunate for Trey Lance, but, I mean, his career is getting off to a rocky start. especially with the strip club thing, the injuries, and even when he was healthy, he didn't look that great. They got rid of Jimmy G. They put him on the bench, gave him a new contract. They were like, we don't really want you. You can be a backup. But they were really trading experience and knowledge of the game for Trey Lance's ceiling. But a ceiling's a ceiling. It's not like what he's going to be. So when he gets back, he's really going to have to reevaluate what he needs to work on. And hopefully he does, because if he doesn't and he puts those things before football, it's not going to be pretty. So.
No, it is not. Let's move on. I know you want to talk about it. I've been chomping at the bit about this for a while, so have at it.
Yeah, I'll make it really quick, and you can dive in. Eagles are no longer the worst fan base in the NFL. After this, the amount, and not every Browns fans. I know a number of Browns fans that hate what Deshaun Watson did, and good on them. But a lot of them really just defend this guy to no end. And in a tailgate, you can search it on Twitter, search it online, but it basically said happy endings aren't illegal, with a blow-up doll of some sort with, his parts erected on a massage table. So you can say, oh, it was funny, it's harmless, but it's not. It impacted 20 women's lives. And it's really disgusting. And even though he wasn't, convicted of it, I would say it's pretty darn apparent that things have happened, things have transpired. So I'm glad they lost to the Jets, because they deserve it. Listen, I know Baker Mayfield sucks, but I know he's not very great. But to throw him out on the street to get
a rapist,
yeah, and then being fine with what he's done, it's horrible.
It's bad luck.
Yeah, bad luck, karma, whatever you want to call it. I hope they continue to stay.
So. The next one, I'll have a lot more to say about than that. You kind of covered what I was going to say, so that's good. The Cardinals. What's your issue with the Cardinals?
Listen, I know that they have a lot of talent on their team. I know that they started out hot last year, but this offense, this team, cannot exist and continue like they have. Their best plays are when Kyler Murray scrambles around like a toddler with a candy bar in his hand, and just making stuff happen. That's not good football. That's not going to be. It's not the kind of longevity that you want from your quarterback. It's not gonna work every game, every day. They were losing to the Raiders by 15, 16, and did come back. So good on them. Congratulations. But Kyler Murray, even with that clause in his contract about studying the game, I don't know if he does or not, but I can tell you Cliff Kingsbury probably doesn't either, because his plays only work when Murray scrambles around for a freaking minute and finds someone on a hope and a prayer. Yeah. That's not a good offense, man. It's not going to work long term. It's funny in college and it's exciting in college, and that's sometimes what you need from a Heisman hopeful, championship contender kind of quarterback, but it's not going to work in the NFL. It'll work in spurts. It'll make top 10 plays, and then they'll say he's deserving of that large contract. I don't think he is, and I don't think Cliff Kingsbury is deserving of a head coaching job. So that's all I'll have to say.
I'm really gonna pick at Kyler. This whole offseason was let's just play a little history game here. We deleted everything from the Cardinals. Then we played the big baby game. You have Larry Fitzgerald come out and call you out. Yeah. Probably the best and most iconic player to ever come out of Arizona is critical of you and your play and how you act and your attitude. And so I thought, okay, I want to see what Kyler looks like coming into this year. No different. No growth, no nothing. Just the same, let me run, and that's it. I don't see any growth from him. I don't see any growth from the Cardinals. Congratulations, you took Hollywood Brown from us. What a big deal that was. Thank you. Do you want a thank you card with that? We're doing just fine. Yeah, we lost, but Rashad Bateman is fine. Duvernay was okay. We still have Mark Andrews. We're okay. We're fine. But to do all that and to put all that talent on that team and to come up with nothing, I'm not impressed with Kyler as a quarterback. I wasn't before he drafted. And I did say I didn't think he was going to make it. He did make it, but that's not saying a lot because so did Josh Rosen. So, you know what I'm saying? Like, you got all these
any quarterback gets a massive contract nowadays. You know what I mean? Like Carson Wentz, who people murder every week, which we'll talk about him soon enough. But like, even him at his worst, like he still got a massive contract. Jared Goff got a massive contract. You know what I mean? Like it's not that impressive.
To be fair, Goff has looked pretty good in 2 weeks.
I know. He looked pretty good the last couple of weeks, but like last year was atrocious, and with the Rams, he was an Achilles heel for a while. Yeah. But like any quarterback can get a massive contract. Matt Ryan is still on a massive contract, and we'll talk about him. So like it's not that impressive anymore to get a huge contract. It's just for a quarterback. It just is what the NFL is at this point. So.
That's pretty much all I have on him. Let's go with the Raiders. What's bugging you about the Raiders?
First of all, I don't like Josh McDaniels, but second of all, I just think it's hilarious that Devontae Adams is like, yeah, I don't want to be with Aaron Rodgers anymore. Like, I'm out. I'm going to go with my best buddy from Fresno State. You know, we're going to be a duo. He might have been in college, but Derek Carr has to be one of the most mediocre quarterbacks in the NFL. Like, I think he's soon going to realize that Derek Carr is not Aaron Rodgers. And listen, we all have our qualms about Aaron Rodgers and his idiotic statements and his choking of the games at the end of the year. But say what you will, Aaron Rodgers is still a massive upgrade from Derek Carr. And I think last night Aaron Rodgers showed that he can get it to pretty much anybody. Now it remains to be seen if he can win in a clutch. However, at least he gets there. Derek Carr cannot get there. Derek Carr has a hard time getting to the playoffs. So I just think it's funny that Devontae Adams chose to go to the Raiders. And from what I've seen historically from receivers, from players in general, usually when you go to Oakland, your career dies. So yeah. I hope I'm wrong. I'm pretty sure Jerry Rice ended his career around with the Raiders. Pretty sure Randy Moss is there too. So, like, I hope this doesn't happen to Devontae Adams, but it could. So,
I have to put up the next one because it's too funny, and I just want proof that we did it. Yeah, go for it. Let the Broncos have it a little bit.
Yeah, Broncos country, let's ride. Broncos country, let's die. They look horrible.
You almost lost to the Texans, who ended in a tie their first game, and you lost to the Seahawks with Geno Smith.
Yeah, it's not a good start. And I think they will get a little bit of it together. But they have to realize, listen, you have Javonte frickin' Williams, and you have, even though he's not the greatest running back in the world, anybody would take him as their number 2 running back, Melvin Gordon. Like, this is the strength of your offense. Something that I would say Russell Wilson didn't always have. Listen, Jerry Jeudy's hurt again. He's consistently hurt. He's a really talented player when he's healthy, but it's hard for him to stay on the field. But you still got Cortland Sutton. You still got KJ Hamler somewhere in there. Huh?
That's what I was about to say.
Like, you still have talented players on the outside for him. But Nathaniel Hackett, I mean, some of his decisions, some of his play calling, some of the worst that I've seen. Not to mention, like, false starts, delay of games. And I don't know if you guys have watched Russell Wilson pregame, but he, like, goes through the motions of kneeling down in like a huddle. He goes through the motions of entering through the stadium as like an actor. There's no one around him. He goes through the tunnel, waving his hands, pretending to slap the hands of fans. He goes down on one knee and talks to himself like he's down on one knee talking to his group of players. He's a little eccentric, I'm not going to lie. So all of that just combined, like, it's a weird situation for the Broncos. I hope they turn it around. Their defense is pretty legit, I think. But, yeah, like you said, struggling with the Seahawks, losing to the Seahawks week 1, struggling with the Texans week 2, and then beyond that, just calling it an anemic offensive game plan. You might die before you ride, Broncos. I am fearful in that division. Chiefs, Chargers. Listen, I think Raiders suck, but they're going to put up a good fight because it's a division rival. They always do. So not looking good for the Broncos.
And your last one to hit on today.
Yeah, I just quickly, Arthur Smith, the head coach for the Falcons, said, "This isn't fantasy football. Like, I feel like Kyle Pitts isn't getting targets. Like, we don't care about fantasy football, man. No, it's about getting your best player targets. The guy you took 4th overall in the NFL draft, the guy who had over 1,000 yards last year, a mismatch, a nightmare at tight end. This isn't about fantasy football, Arthur Smith. It's about getting the best player of the ball. Like, yeah, you don't have Derrick Henry anymore. You got to change up your offense, dude. Like, you're not with the Titans anymore with Derrick Henry. You have to adapt your offense to the guys that you have. Like, it's Marcus Mariota and Desmond Ridder, who are both pretty good runners. Like, there should be a ton of RPO stuff with Kyle Pitts in the middle of the field.
This is how you know we're better than coordinators, because you learn this in Madden. You learn, I can't pass in a 4th and goal situation when they're in cover 3. It's just not. I mean, you can, but chances are you're going to get stuffed. I'd rather run it up the middle. I'd rather, and I didn't understand that watching the Rams game. They did target Pitts a lot when he was in double and triple coverage, and I'm like, what do you expect him to do? Like, do you just expect him to just like one-hand it and like shove everybody out of the way? I'm not understanding how you're trying to get him the ball efficiently. Do you know what would be terrifying? Running him on some hook routes, on some slant routes. What are you gonna do? The dude's like 207,000 pounds. Like,
right,
just grab it and just go through you.
Just over the middle. Like,
yeah, I don't.
Corners aren't tall as him. Safeties aren't as fast as him. Linebackers aren't as fast as him. He's a mismatch. And like you said about targeting him, like if he's triple-double covered, that's been the Atlanta Falcons' Achilles heel since I've watched them play, even with Matt Ryan and Julio. Like, they got Julio the ball when he was on single coverage, like, before the red zone. Did a really good job at that. But once they got to the red zone, he was double-triple covered. They're like, oh, I don't know what to do now. You have other players. Like,
I had to say, though, on the flip side of that, who was good in the red zone was Drake London. That is the last thing I expected. Yeah. Some USC receivers are good, but then you have the Jujus of the world where I'm like, Yeah. But London looks good. And when your quarterback is Mariota and you look good, I'd say you're a pretty decent receiver. Now, he's still a rookie. But he looked good. He found open seams, good hands, stayed in there to get hit on a lot of those plays, but he got the ball.
Yeah.
He blocked really well.
Yeah, that's going to be interesting to see how they spread targets with those guys. But
I think Pitts won't last forever in Atlanta. I was kind of glad you brought that up, because it's not that he won't be willing to stay. What are you going to pay him for if you're not going to use him? You should have kept Hayden Hurst if you're just going to not use a tight end and just
Kyle Pitts is not a blocker. He's not going to block. So, like, get him out of there.
He's a receiver. Put him in the slot. He is a receiver.
He's very much like Zach Ertz for the Eagles. He's improved as a blocker over the duration of his career. But that Super Bowl run, they stuck him in the slot. They stuck him at receiver, and he went to work. So you're going to have to do that. Like, you're going to have to not force feed him the ball when there's 3 guys, but when there's one-on-one coverage, yes, you should force feed him the ball. That's a high percent chance that you're going to move the ball. The Falcons have a lot of work to do.
Yes, they do. I'll wrap up the buzz for the day. Let's talk about the NFL a little bit. I'm just going to go ahead and put up the scores. Was there a game? I mean, we talked about Dolphins, Ravens.
Yeah.
We talked about Chiefs, Chargers a little bit. We talked about Rams, Falcons, and Cowboys, Bengals, Broncos, Texans. Is there anything that we didn't talk about that you want to talk about?
Just really quick, the Patriots and Steelers. First of all, Mac Jones, I feel bad for him. He needs to get a real offensive coordinator. Number 2, listen, Steelers fans, I know a lot of you, and I've talked to a lot of you about your season, And I think you can still be a decent team this year because of your defense, but TJ Watt's hurt. But I did tell you, your offensive line sucks, and your quarterback, we don't know who it's going to be. But even if it's Trubisky, even if it's Rudolph, even if it's Pickett, they're going to struggle. They're like, I don't know. Like Trubisky didn't have a great with Chicago. I'm like, you're right.
With no line there either.
Yeah,
that's
he
the point.
Didn't have a line there either. And listen, your weapons, your receiver weapons, they're decent, but they're not like no one would take Chase Claypool and George Pickens as their number one receivers yet. Not yet. Like Pickens could be, Claypool definitely isn't. Deontay Johnson, I think he's a really good receiver. He's very underrated. But I don't think anyone would be like, yeah, I want him as my number one guy.
He's not AB. He's not that kind of like, wow, he's like just out of nowhere and super. No.
Not that. So like I told you, and again, like they could prove me wrong, be a really good team this year, but like there are major holes, major questions that you cannot fix in the duration of a year. You cannot fix this O-line unless you send like an 8-9 man protection and just let Mitchell Trubisky chuck it deep to Deontay Johnson, Chase Claypool. It's not going to work. So you have to rely on running the ball. But guess what? Brad can speak to this with his fantasy team. Najee ain't having that good of a start to his year because he doesn't have any space to go to. So it could be a bad year if you cannot get the running game going.
And Trubisky is not doing what Ben did. Ben chucked it down a lot to Najee. That's why Najee looked so great on paper last year. He didn't go off for like 200, 175 yards a game.
Mm-hmm.
He went off in receiving yards because he did it with us too at Alabama. He was a really good receiver. He learned. He wanted to be a good receiver. So when Mitch takes that out of the game, you take – why have a running back? Like just run 5 wide and hope for the best. I don't understand. The game I'm going to talk about, I talked about them last week. I'm going to talk about them again this week. I thought they had a chance. I thought Fields looked good game 1, and terrible weather still looked really good. The Bears are just anemic at best. Nothing is special about them. I watched that game multiple times. I'm going, you had an opportunity. You had an opportunity. You could have done something with that. I just stopped watching. I was done. I was like, when Fields running in a touchdown is the only touchdown you have, our complaint was, where are the receivers? Where is the help for him? Montgomery doesn't have an O-line, neither does Fields. If that's your offense, you're done. You play Cole
Kmet has 0 catches, 0 yards.
Yeah. You play in a very difficult division. You cannot play anemic. I would say at this point, the Bears have a better shot at winning the division than the Packers do. The Lions. Because the Lions, look at their offense. Look what they have invested in. Yeah. The Bears haven't. The Bears must hate Fields. That is just my thought process. It is a new management team. They must hate Fields because Fields looks bad because he has nobody.
Yeah, I think we're going to learn a lot about management this offseason because it is new, like you said. And they got some really good defenders in this draft. But like you're right, the Lions, they got Amon-Ra St. Brown. And even though DJ Chark kind of sucks, they still went up and got him.
You still have Hawk?
Yeah, Hawkinson. Their offensive line's pretty darn good. Drafted Penei Sewell, who's really good already.
O-line help.
Yeah. Frank Ragnow at center. I think it's Taylor Decker, I think. Yeah, at left tackle. So they invested heavily into those positions as well. The Bears, listen, if you're going to play in that division, and a lot of that Packers-Bears rivalry or Bears-Lions, whatever it is, it's a lot of like historically hard-nosed football, ground and pound, like kind of play-action-y type of like tough physical games. And in those moments, you need to use a tight end. And you have a pretty good one, I think. He had a pretty good end of last year. And they haven't targeted him. He hasn't had 1 catch yet. That's horrible. Like, a tight end is a quarterback's best friend. And you're not going to get him the ball once.
We know that in Madden and college football. And look, our leading receivers usually are tight ends.
Yeah, like just young quarterbacks. Like that's why? Because like people don't put their massive resources on tight ends,
No.
and if you can run a decent play action game, tight ends usually get open. Also, it's the middle of the field. Like there are opportunities to be had in the middle of the field, especially when you're playing against zone heavy teams, which the Packers are a zone heavy team.
Yeah.
Like that's primarily what they run. Is like four down linemen, zone, find, pick your poison, pick a spot, and there was none for a tight end to go. No, that ain't gonna work, dude. So
Yeah, it's not the best. Anyways, that'll wrap up our NFL stuff for the day. Kyle, you are on spicy meatball. Let me put you in space here, and then maybe. Why am I not going away? Oh, there we go. All right.
listen, this is again NFL. Sorry about that, guys. But my spicy meatball take, and I don't think it's that spicy to be honest. Carson Wentz wasn't the problem in Indianapolis. Not even just this last game, not even the first two games. But you look at Carson Wentz's career, you look at Matt Ryan's career. I understand Matt Ryan got to Super Bowl. He did lose. I understand that statistically, Matt Ryan could be in the Hall of Fame for how long he's played, how many touchdowns he's had, the Pro Bowls. But like you look at the last 5 years of Matt Ryan, and if you take out, and I understand like I shouldn't be like, oh, if you take out this year and this year, he's average. But listen to me, if you do take out his Super Bowl year, these are his ratings for every year. 87.7, 80.9, 91, 92, 99, 89, 93, 89, 108, 91, 92, 93, 90.4. And this year right now is currently 64. Carson Wentz's career, 79, 101, 102, 93, 72, 94, 100. Like Carson Wentz has had some stinker years, but like I'm sure if you take an average of every year, Carson
Matt
Wentz's
Ryan is
passer rating
worse.
is probably pretty equal to Matt Ryan. Matt Ryan's old; he's decrepit. He can't move around at all anymore. And Jim Irsay talked so much crap on Carson Wentz this offseason, which listen, Carson Wentz, we know what he is. He has some really boneheaded, stupid plays pretty much every game. But also, if you take out those, like beyond his boneheaded plays, which does cost him the game sometimes,
He's not
this
bad.
this is the best quarterback for the Commanders in the last few years. Like Tyler Heineke cannot do what he's done. Alex Smith couldn't do what he's done. Like Jahan Dotson, Curtis Samuel, Terry McLaurin, they would not get the amount of deep balls that they would get with any of those quarterbacks. And I'm sorry, they wouldn't get those with Matt Ryan either. So to blame all this on Carson Wentz, listen, he was a problem for the Colts last year. It was the main problem. They were easy to stop. It was shut down Jonathan Taylor, which is hard to do, but it's shut down him. You're pretty much
that's what they did this past week.
Right. And Michael Pittman's a good receiver, but again, much like Deontay Johnson, no one's really like, I'm afraid of Michael Pittman.
Yeah, I'm not going to lose sleep over Michael Pittman.
I'm going to put two guys on Michael Pittman, or I'm going to, play on my defense to stop Michael Pittman. No one's like that. So like Matt Ryan, grossly overrated, I think. I think a lot of people love him, but I'm one of those guys that does not. I think he's grossly overrated. He's never won a big game in his life. Neither has Carson Wentz. So it's like you're kind of going backwards, Colts. But again, they did get old Phillip Rivers as well. They are much like, we're one quarterback away from competing. No, you're not. You're not even close. You have so many other issues. Same with the Broncos. You're not just a Russell Wilson away from winning. You're not the Buccaneers. You know why the Buccaneers got Tom Brady? Is
because they were solid.
Yeah, they were literally one quarterback away. And also, it's Tom Brady. Matt Ryan's not Tom Brady. Philip Rivers isn't Tom Brady. Russell Wilson isn't Tom Brady. Carson Wentz isn't Tom Brady. It's Tom Brady with a bevy of weapons who invested so much money in draft picks into literally every position on that team besides quarterback.
It's stacked.
So you're not the Buccaneers, Colts. Carson Wentz was not the problem, and Matt Ryan is not going to make you any better. So,
Ouch.
yeah.
Truth, painful truth, but truth. I'd have to agree with that.
Yeah.
Ouch. But it's true. So I guess let me pose you this question, then we'll go on ads, and then we'll keep soldering on. Let's just say the Colts just have the abominable year that they had right before they got Luck. Is that your game plan again? Just draft a quality quarterback, or what do you do?
Yeah, I mean, I would say that's the best option to go to. I don't think there are any like available quarterbacks out there that are like, I need to trade for this guy or sign this guy. I think this is a deep quarterback class. If I were them, and if they keep going the way that they're going, let's say after 8 weeks they're 2-6, I'd start Sam Ellinger, see what you have. Honestly, I would. Like at the very least, he's probably a competent backup. Maybe like a guy that you could put as a starter next year when you have a rookie quarterback.
I'd put him like a Brissett.
Yeah,
a solid backup.
And he could very well be that. You have a lot of quarterbacks coming out this year that will probably go from 1 to 32. Like it's not going to be like this year where you have Pickett at 20 and then Blake Willis in the third. Like you could have quarterbacks, probably 3. You could in the top 5. You could have one at 15. You could have one at 20. You could have one at 28. One at 32. Like I think that quarterback class, that's how it's going to be. They're going to be spread out throughout the first round, second round probably. So like you're going to find a guy that you'll probably fall in love with. Every team does.
Yep.
That's what I would do.
I'm going to go ahead and speak it into motion. It would be very Colts-like not to take Bryce Young and to go for Will Levis instead.
Yeah, I could definitely still see Will Levis in the Colts jersey for sure.
Yep. I'm just going to go ahead and speak that one into yeah. Let's go ahead and plow through our ads here real quick. First of all, we have Fresh Cuts. If you're not familiar with Fresh Cuts, then you haven't caught up with us in a long time. Fresh Cuts is a barbershop in Marion, Indiana, run by Caleb Kemper, our great friend and our one and only first sponsor. He is actually going up for the best barbershop of Grant County. We are supporting him with this. I made this, so I'm really happy about the poster that I made. But voting for him is through September 28th to October 8th, and it can be done on the Grant County's greatest website. Please take the time to vote for him. He does really great work, as evidenced here. Don't look at me now. I haven't had a haircut in a while, but me here is much better. Steve Wood Illustrations, here for all your arts needs, from Star Wars to G.I. Joe beyond. See him for all the nerds in your life who aren't sure what to get. I'm actually about to place an order with him. He doesn't know this yet. For Christmas. Shocker, Kyle. There's what you're getting for Christmas. Of just some different like art things that I'm going to give out to my friends. I thought it'd be really neat to have something unique in everybody's home. And he really is good to cater to what you're looking for, what you need. He does do custom work also. So hit him up for that on all of his different ways to connect with him. If you do want to see his work, go to www.stevewood.work and you can see a lot of the stuff that he's done. We're also going to support my friend Ronnie Morrell as he runs for mayor of Marion. I usually wouldn't foray into anything political with my podcast, but I will just for the sake of I know what this guy has done for our community. I know what he continues to do for our community. He is very active, and I feel really good about him turning things around in Marion. Marion is not the greatest. It was at one point, the 80s. And he's just trying to get community back together, get everybody in to be involved and bring us all together. And I really support that. So I told him we would support him through this. We're also supporting Liberty Prep, which the Freedmen, they're a local post-grad prep football program. We're showing support for them and head coach Paul Funchess as they begin the season coming off a national championship and are trying for a second. You can find them playing at the high school stadium in Marion. I don't think they play another home game for a little bit. But if you're local, go out, support them, show them some love. These kids are trying to go to the next level, and they could use the support. Aubin came on here. He gave his whole spiel last week. I'm going to be really quick about this. But anyways, Afro Latinos doesn't exist anymore. It will be the Culture Corner soon. Aubin and Shaylin will have their own thing. We will be guests on that. You'll see us there too. Rules of the Frame is another friend cast specializing in movie reviews. I think so. So Connor and I watched a movie recently. Anyways, we watched The Pirate from 1948, starring Gene Kelly and Judy Garland, which he thought was going to be an action flick. And as soon as he said Gene Kelly and Judy Garland, I thought this is a musical. It was a musical. He just started this week. He is a associate professor in film at Indiana Wesleyan University, and he's going to come on with us and do a couple reviews. Kyle, I don't know when the next review we're going to do is. We'll talk about that, but I really want to get him involved because I like what he has to say about movies. And then the last one, if you haven't seen Billy Martell on here before, I'm trying to get Billy and Brad both on here. It is 1,000 Wives of Weird. They also review movies, but they review very like backwards B, even C-list movies, I'd say. But they review how they got made, what makes them special, etc. So we also want to show our support to our friends from there. Cool. All right. That was a lot. Sorry. What are we on? Let's take out the trash.
Yes, let's take out the trash. Listen, and I don't know if everybody has seen this, but you can find it on Twitter. I'll shout out Pac West Sports Media, something like that. But they have a screenshot of all the voters in the AP poll who vote for their top 25. And all media people, writers. It shouldn't be a thing. And coaches poll is pretty horrible too. The AP poll, first of all, like it averages out to be like, okay, yeah, that's fine. But then you see some of these writers' trash opinions. Some of them don't even have Penn State in the top 25. Some of them don't even have them in the top 20. Some teams still have Notre Dame on the top 25. Some of them still have Michigan State on the top 25. Some of them, like, horrible. I don't know what they watch. I don't know what they do. Some of them have Kansas in, Penn State out. Some of them have Oregon State in. Like, so many horrible votes that I've seen that, like, I don't think these guys watch an ounce of college football. I think at one point they did. They got to positions. They held on to them. But, like, there's no kind of, like, I don't know. I think it should be like a yearly test of what the heck do you know about college football. Legitimately, Brad, I think we could come up with a better top 25 than these guys.
Yeah, probably.
We could. Like a more like reasonable, logical one, like where we argue it out a little bit. But ultimately, like, yeah, we can agree on a lot of these things. Like I think we could agree that probably Georgia's number one. I think we can agree that Alabama's 2 or 3. We can agree that Ohio State's probably 2 or 3. No?
Ohio State's 3.
Okay. We can agree that Michigan probably deserves top 6 ranking. We probably agree that like Penn State deserves probably top 12 ranking. Maybe. Notre Dame should be out. Michigan State should be nearly out. You know, like these teams
they should be out.
These teams don't belong in there. Like Arkansas, like one person didn't have Arkansas in the top 25 either.
What are you watching?
My mistake. I forgot. It was a late night. What? Do your job. Like, what's wrong with you? It's horrible, and I do think at some point we should do a top 25, like on air, of like this is what we think it is legitimate. Because
let's do it next week.
Yeah, we would have a more valid like argument and backup to our reasoning than they would.
It comes out Sunday, so that would kind of be perfect. We'll just do a live one next week. We'll do our top 25, give you reasons why, and maybe that'll take up all of our NCAA section.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be so much better. So take out the AP and all that. Even though the whole committee thing sometimes does suck, they're a lot more knowledgeable than those guys. So
biased, maybe.
A lot of people are. So take out that trash. And the other thing is RG3 broadcasting. I don't want to call him trash, but like some of his comments are trashy. If you know who Michael Penix is from Washington, who used to play in Indiana, he made a lot of Penix jokes in the football game. And I'm pretty sure he also at one point said in the first game, like, there's an orgy happening in the end zone. Like, it's hilarious, but also like pretty bad. So he's funny. If you want entertainment that's not college football, and like, oh, we're watching San Jose State and Akron play, and he's calling the game, you should probably put it on. It's probably pretty fun. But I don't know if he's ready for the big stage yet.
I think that started when he did the Kenny Pickett thing. Hit him with the fake slide.
Oh yeah, yeah. I do like him though. I'm glad he's in the booth.
Yeah,
are trashy. So what can you do? Okay.
Flashbang. Who's asking who?
I'll ask you. Nebraska fired Scott Frost. They fired their defensive coordinator. Nebraska thinks they're like a legitimate powerhouse / everybody wants to coach for us, and really no one does. But if you had your choice, would it be Urban Meyer or Matt Rule?
Let me really think about that for a minute. Matt Rule. I'm sorry, but Matt Rule has had better success at a higher level than Urban Meyer has. Urban Meyer could not handle without kicking people. So
That's true. Like Matt Rule's not the greatest NFL coach, but he's had a lot more success than Urban Meyer.
And I've heard his relationships are pretty decent with everybody.
Yeah, he's a good guy.
That's pretty successful, especially if you're going to go to Nebraska, of all places. You have to have good relational skills. You are not going to bring in a 5-star just because you say, I'm from Nebraska, want to come play. No one's going to do that. No one in their right mind. But, I mean, yeah, it's Matt Rule.
And Matt Rule, like, he has history with the Big Ten. Like, he played for Penn State way back when. I'm pretty sure I think he coached for Penn State at one point. So, like, he has history there in the Big Ten. So I think that would be a logical landing spot. So
probably.
Yeah.
Okay. NCAA Newswire. I'm going to toss up the scores. Let's chat.
All right, Brad. Is Clemson real or no?
No. If you subscribe to Funny Maine Johnson, he does Alabama, how the SEC fans watch stuff week after week. He just came out and he said it. He said, I'm going to start calling it what it is. False hope alert. False hope alert. We beat up a cupcake. We think we're somebody now. False hope alert. That is Clemson to a T right now. Who have you played? Even your interconference, you struggled against Georgia Tech. They scored all those points in the second half against Furman. 35 points. That's it. You can't score more than that on Furman. Yikes. And then this past week, they struggled. And then there was like 13-6. And then in the second half, you pile on points. That is not a recipe for success. I'm sorry. You got to come out hard, early, and strong. That defense, yes. Yes, they are real. The offense, no. At some point, you've got to let, almost said Drew Pine, shoot, who's the backup for Clemson? Cade Klubnik.
Yeah.
You got to give him a shot. You got to give him a shot because you are not going to get through, well, you probably will get through North Carolina and Wake Forest and the nobodies that you play. But NC State, I think NC State would give them their biggest threat. And if you can't score, then you are going to lose and you will be out. So I think what you can do to get yourself successful. What year was that, Kyle, where they took out – I can't even remember his name because that's how mediocre he was. But we beat him that year. Huh?
Taj Boyd?
No. We beat him in the playoffs with Jalen. That was Jalen's freshman year. Then the next year, they subbed him out for Trevor Lawrence. That's my whole point. We don't remember who that was. We remember Trevor Lawrence.
Taj Boyd?
No, Taj Boyd was way before that.
Oh.
No, I'm talking. This kid stuck around. Then he transferred, I think, Notre Dame, UCF, and then just disappeared. But he played. They benched him and put in the guy that would take them all the way.
Right.
That is my point here. Ukulele is not going to get it done. Ugangale, I'm sorry, buddy. I promise I want to get your name right. I can't. So this is why, if you've never heard us say ukulele, it's because Brad can't pronounce things right. So I say ukulele. No disrespect to DJ. I just don't know how to say it. But nobody remembers the quarterback prior to Trevor Lawrence. We remember Trevor Lawrence. I'm thinking the same thing with Cade Klubnik. If you can't get it done, put in the guy that might get it done. So to answer your question, no, I need to see more from Clemson, which I would give you the same answer for Alabama. We can't play UL Monroe and throw 2 picks and me say, whoop, we're the best team in the nation. The offense still looked bad against UL Monroe with us hanging 63 points on them. Mm-hmm. That's like, points shouldn't matter. It should matter, did you win or not? Okay, what did you do in that game that determined why you won? Not score. I think score is deceptive. Like, look at App State and Texas A&M. Leading up to that game, A&M looked pretty good score-wise. Then they played App State.
Like, was it Kelly Bryant, Brad?
Kelly Bryant. Thank you. It was Bryant. Thank you.
I looked it up. I didn't know that.
I couldn't remember because he transferred after that year. He went to Missouri. That's right. He went to Missouri.
Yeah. Yep.
And then he just never heard from him again. Yep. But I'm thinking that would be a similar situation if they replaced DJ. Because what has he done for you lately? I mean,
that is the name of the game. What have you done for me lately? That's a good question.
I want to ask you the next one. I wrote it, but I have to ask anyways, because this is an argument, and you brought it up, an argument that's been going on with a lot of writers, a lot of coaches, a lot of everybody. Is Penn State better than we think, or are they just playing pedestrian teams? Like what I said, is this a false hope alert, or are they actually doing it?
It's a good question because a lot of people would say, and not you, because I haven't really heard from you yet, but a lot of Auburn fans, especially some SEC fans, even some Big Ten fans, after that win would say, "Oh, Auburn stinks. Auburn stinks. That's not an impressive win." But listen, if you go to their history, that's the biggest blowout in Jordan-Hare Stadium in the last 4 or 5 years. Alabama beat them by 2 last year at Jordan-Hare Stadium.
Yep.
And Bo Nix was on the field, and we talk trash of Bo Nix every week. So, I don't want to hear, "Oh, they had Bo Nix." No, he's bad.
Yeah.
And they only lost Roger McCreary to the NFL. That's the only guy they lost.
You still have Tank Bigsby.
Except for
you have TJ Finley. They're a good team.
Zach Calzada beat Alabama last year, and he's your third quarterback. So I don't want to hear, "Oh, they're trash." Do I think they're good? No, I don't think they're the greatest team. For that environment, what?
I think this is where you're gonna fire me a little bit. I think they're the second best team in the Big Ten based on the play right now. Or sorry, third best team in the Big Ten. I forgot about Michigan because I always forget.
I'm talking about Auburn.
Team.
Yeah.
Sorry.
But yeah, I agree with you there. I think that in the James Franklin era, he has a hard time going on the road and beating teams. To start out week 1.
Let's take it back. Let's not say Auburn. Let's say what it is: a Power 5 school. You went on the road to a very nasty stadium and you won soundly.
Not only one, dominated by 29 points. And they could have put on more if they kept their starters in. Our third stringer was in the game at the end of the game. Our third string quarterback. So that's how bad you made people leave the stadium. When you can do that in an opposing team stadium and take it over, that's when you know you've stuck the knife through their heart. Beyond that, James Franklin struggles with winning on the road. But you go into Purdue, who Purdue's not awful, and you win, and that's also a tough environment. Ohio State has lost there.
Yeah.
On a Thursday night, the first Thursday night you played on the road, last second touchdown, beat Ohio. Who cares? They suck. But then go to Auburn and do that. Those are important games that not everybody escapes. So not only do you escape the first win, but you blow out Auburn. Especially when Penn State looked like the SEC team.
Let's talk in committee terms. You have a cupcake. So the cupcake out. Let's just talk about the 2 games you played that were quality games. You went and you played a conference game on the road Thursday night, first game of the year, and walk away with some grit in the last couple seconds. Sean Clifford actually showed up and won. Let's talk about your second game. You went on the road again against a Power 5 conference opponent in a difficult stadium and won convincingly. To me, if I'm ranking people, I would put Penn State at 15. It's kind of right in the middle of the pack. You haven't beaten anybody ranked, neither have we, But that's how they're going to be with Penn State. That's always how they are with Penn State, because Penn State has had that stigma since all the stuff that happened years ago. So they're always going to be critical on you. But I want to say those are two quality wins. If I were talking from a committee standpoint, and we're going to play apples and oranges, you played 2 road games, 2 Power 5 schools, 1 conference, won both. I wouldn't say convincingly for the first one, but O'Connell is good, and you still beat O'Connell at home. Yeah. So credit to Penn State's defense to at least get you in a position to go and score.
Yeah. Yeah, and the running attack has not looked this good since Saquon. Nick Singleton, who's a 5-star freshman, like, I don't say this lightly because I have a freaking picture of Saquon with his autograph. Like, he's by far one of my favorite players. But, like, Nick Singleton is the next guy. Like, he ran by Auburn defenders like they looked like they belonged in the MAC. That's how slow he made them look. Like, and the offensive line is the best that I've seen in quite some time. And it's not like they played a cupcake and they did this. Like, Auburn has some pretty good recruits. Like recruiting wise, they're very close to being even on the talent of recruits that they get year in, year out. Now, and when you make them look like that, it's pretty impressive.
The only dent that anybody could ever give Auburn is Brian Harsin and all the drama that's going on the backside. Sure. But that shouldn't affect what's on the field.
Yeah.
So I don't care about that. I know you're going to see it and you're going to hear it from writers. Well, Brian Harsin era is starting out really poorly. Who cares? So did Saban's. Saban's first year wasn't great either. Yeah. Like you get where I'm going with this? Like,
yeah.
It doesn't matter. Like, no one's going to go back and talk about the 2007 game against UL Monroe and say, well, it's because Saban wasn't ready yet. So we still lost. You lose. It happens. Like, Auburn is a quality school, and you beat them. So it makes me feel good for the Iron Bowl. But
yeah, for sure. And it's not like, I'm not saying Penn State's a top 10 team. They're going to win the Big Ten. Like, that's where people get it like confused. Like, it's like, oh, you think you beat Auburn? No, but I think
you beat Ohio State. You're in.
Yeah, it's a step in the right direction because, like, you play Central Michigan next, you should beat them. You play Northwestern, you should beat them, and then you play Michigan, and like probably undefeated Penn State, and Michigan, and probably undefeated Michigan going head to head. Like, that's what you want. That's what you live for as big time programs. Yeah. So, and honestly, Penn State 7-5 last year, only lost to Ohio State by 9 and Michigan by I think 3.
Yeah, so, it wasn't much.
Penn State's really darn close most of the times with these top echelon schools. It's just they rarely get that big moment, big time like play to win the game.
Welcome to how I felt against Texas. Usually we're just blowing everybody out, and I'm like, oh, is this what everybody feels every week? I hate this.
Yeah, it's not a good feeling. So things are looking up for sure. They have a really good freshman recruiting class that like 8 guys have played so far, and they look pretty darn good. So step in the right direction. I think they are better than I definitely thought. I'm off to eat crow on that one, but it's still a long year, and they have some games to play. So
we'll see. It'll all come down to those games, of course.
Yeah.
But Herm Edwards was fired. I mean,
moving on. Okay.
Yeah.
He wasn't any good. I think he actually got fired on the field after the game. I think that's what I saw. So he should just be like one of those broadcaster commentators type.
Yeah,
guys,
he needs to hang it up.
Yeah, I don't think he's the greatest recruiter either. So I think Deion Sanders could probably be a little bit more successful than him if Sanders goes to the FBS level. Because so far at Jackson State, you've done some nice things. So
yeah. Do you want me to ask you the next one?
Yeah, I'll ask you.
Okay.
If you saw Saturday, Tommy Rees is the offensive coordinator for Notre Dame, and he cussed out new quarterback Drew Pine, swore at him, all that stuff. You should lead the team, things like that. Brad, do you have an issue with Tommy Rees cussing out Drew Pine and available for everybody to see?
Absolutely. I'm sorry, but Drew Pine is your best option right now, and he's a good recruit. I said this, Notre Dame fans, I know you watch with us. Same with Colts fans. Sorry if you're a Colts fan and you heard us rip the Colts, but it's true. You need to hear it. It's a breath of fresh air. Let me bring you one more with Notre Dame. I thought Pine should have been the starter at the beginning of the year. I thought Pine was better. Now I understand calling somebody and saying you need to be a leader, you need to step up, but that is unacceptable. I'm sorry, when you're losing your starter, this man now has to come in, has never really done anything before because he's a freshman, he's a rookie, and you want to lead him to a win in this game. What do you think is going to get more out of him? Saying we trust you, stick to the game plan, keep looking for the open receivers. Be careful. Be careful. I know you're seeing what's happening here. Stick with your man. Look down. Look at all your routes. Make sure before you throw the ball. Don't do anything dumb. That right there is easy. Send him back out. There he goes. Or you could just trash him for 10 minutes. And I'm sorry, I don't follow that. You lost to Marshall. I would think that would be a little humbling for Notre Dame in terms of how you choose to treat your team and how you choose to move forward. Not saying fans. It's not fans. It's the coaching staff. Like, okay, Marcus Freeman, this is your first year with Notre Dame. You need to make a statement. You brought in Manti Te'o for this game. Cool. I thought that was awesome. I thought the man deserves to go home. I still haven't watched the documentary, but I still follow everything that happened, and that man deserved to go home. But no, I don't think that's okay. Like, I don't even like when Saban gets – now, he usually gets on to people for a good reason, because if you just go and you target somebody for no reason, yeah, you're going to get chewed out. But if you just missed a pass and Saban comes over and just chews you out and you're a rookie, you're a freshman.
Right. It'd be very different if it was like 6th-year Drew Pine. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like against a cupcake team, it'd be so different. That's the guy's for. I mean, maybe his yelling and cussing worked. I don't know, but it's not like, oh well, he cussed at him, he swore at him, and therefore Drew Pine played better. He very well could have played better if you talked to him like normally and told him what he did wrong and be like, get your crap together, let's go. Like,
well, and I don't understand why college is like that. And then when you get and you see the pros, look at Stafford. Stafford threw 2 picks against the Falcons. Did you see anyone yell at him on primetime? No. They gave him the tablet. He looked at it. He nodded. He said, okay. That's what should happen. It's okay. It happens. That's part of the game. Don't crucify him because he's struggling against Cal, which, let's be honest, Cal is probably mid-level in the Pac-12. I understand why you're upset, but also you lost to Marshall, so you're also kind of in that same range.
You'll take what you can get at this point if you want.
Yeah, exactly. Like, it's a next man up mentality, not a let me destroy you mentality. So, anyways, that's going to wrap up our NCAA stuff. Let's fire through overrated. That first one, I feel like you want to talk about it because it's division rivals.
Yeah, Commanders defense. Listen, I think you do have a lot of good players on there. Specifically, you've drafted like 17 Alabama guys, and I think they are good. But Jack Del Rio needs to go, I think, because you have so much talent on that defense, and year in, year out, game in, game out, you do not perform to that level of expectations.
Yeah.
Your defense, Commanders, is overrated.
I'm for that.
Geno Smith, listen, dude. Everybody crowned you as like, this is who he was when he came out of West Virginia. We should have waited for him. It's one game against the Broncos, and he wasn't
with the Texans,
right, and he wasn't even that like good in the game. Like he had like what, barely 200 if that passing yards, and he ran the ball most of the game with Rashad Penny. Like, we crown people way too early. Geno Smith, Seahawks fans wanted Geno Smith's head after this last game. Like, you crown people way too early. He ain't that good, Seahawks. You're going to need a quarterback here soon. So, I talked about the Steelers' offense already. You're overrated. Brad, did you want to talk about the next guy?
Yeah, I hate saying this because I thought, oh, this is finally going to make this game interesting. But Anthony Richardson he's kind of overrated.
Yeah.
When you only beat USF by 3, he didn't look great. That whole team didn't look great. I was like, oh, so the Utah game was like the best game you could have possibly put out this whole season was against a Pac-12 team that probably shouldn't have been ranked that high. Let's be honest. Ouch. He's overrated. I'm just going to go ahead and say the Florida Gators offense is overrated. Now, the defense looked good. But the offense, woo, that's y'all got some work to do. I mean, so do we, but yee.
Yeah, and I think they play Tennessee this weekend.
Yes, they do.
That'll be a good game. They were like a big litmus test to see how they compete because Tennessee has been pretty surprising.
Whopping people. Yeah.
Hendon Hooker's pretty darn good.
Yeah.
Got a good defense too, so we'll see with that. You want to move on to the next segment?
Yeah, let's do it real quick. I will give you the three here. Who do you think has been more impressive with the bottom dwellers that are Kentucky, Arkansas, and South Carolina? Who do you like the best out of three of these?
Well,
Josh,
yeah.
paper, scissors.
I wouldn't put Arkansas and Kentucky as bottom dwellers, but in comparison, yes, to Georgia and Alabama, they're not them. But like Mark Stoops for sure.
Well, like historically.
Right. Okay, I got you. Kentucky for sure. Mark Stoops. Every week, I feel like I'm saying, "Wow!" Like they might not be flashy all the time, but they get the job done, and they produce some pretty good NFL players. So gotten guys to the NFL. Their defense is usually really good, and they were like 14th in recruiting last year, which like is impressive for a basketball school. Like if you're like, oh, Kentucky has the 14th rated basketball, rankings, you'd be like, okay, yeah, like it's a down year for Calipari, but it's still pretty good. The 14th in college football, like props to him for creating just a really good team year in, year out. And again, they don't have always the best athletes in the world, but they're getting there.
No. But we have to respect them, and that's what scares me. Yeah. I'm like, oh, okay, this is not an easy check it off and go. Like,
and like they haven't really found like a really good quarterback yet. Like I know Will Levis is like, yeah, he'll be a first round pick, but listen, dude, that's mostly for physical tools. Like he's built like
he's built like the hefty lefty kind of.
He's massive. He has a massive arm. He's mobile. Like he's got a good zip on the ball. Occasionally, he's really incredibly accurate. Like he has all the physical tools in the world that everybody wants to work with. But in terms of like college QB, like he's not the best quarterback you could have. Like there are other better, accurate, more like just overall quarterbacks that improve your offense more than Will Levis done. They haven't found that yet, and they're still like pretty good year in, year out. I give respect to these other two schools. Like definitely Arkansas has produced some good players, and they're a good team. But like I just think from like a competitive standpoint, recruiting standpoint, and like NFL standpoint, Mark Stoops has really made something out of nothing.
I like it. I would take. I agree with you, but I would take Pittman just for the sake of Arkansas was that game that you checked off in the SEC West every year, and suddenly last year we won by 7 points. The team that we lost, but we went to the national title game. We only won by 7. That's bad. That's real bad. I like KJ Jefferson. I really do. I think he is kind of a freak athlete, kind of do it all kind of guy. And Sam Pittman scares me. He scares me. I don't want to play Arkansas this year. I'd like to just skip that game, please. But I got to give you credit with Mark Stoops too. Like, nobody thought of Kentucky when you think football either. Like, it's just I'm impressed with both, but I'd take Pittman just for same things that you said. NFL prospects, turning them into this dangerous threat that, you know what, should they beat us, they could run the SEC West. They really could. And that's a terrifying thought for me because I liked beating up on Arkansas for years. So here's another one. I'm going to give you a tricky question for this one. I know you probably saw me put these 3 coaches on here and go, why? Okay, Kyle. All 3 of these guys get fired after 1 year. They hate what they did. You are starting at let's just pick one. How about Appalachian State, right? You need to pick one to be your head coach. You need to pick one to be your offensive coordinator and defensive coordinator. I've kind of set it up for you already by realizing who I picked. But because they're all head coaches, you could really put them anywhere. Who would you take for what? Jocks, paper, scissors.
I don't know. I think I'd take Brent Venables. I think historically he's produced some pretty good defenses. I think even though Dabo is not everybody's favorite guy, he's not mine. he's goofy and he's weird and he's eccentric, but I think in terms of like leading a program, I think he does a pretty darn good job at that. Like, I think you could learn a lot from Dabo, as I'm sure Dan Lanning learned from Kirby Smart and those kind of guys too. But I think when you go to a place like Oklahoma, who's year in, year out, like a powerhouse on offense, always near the conversation of a top four team. You get Lincoln Riley to go somewhere else. Bob Stoops of yesteryears, he's not there anymore, obviously. Like historically, with those two guys, Oklahoma is still a pretty darn good team, which leads me to believe that like whoever hires these guys like knows what they're doing. I think Brent Venables can lead Oklahoma to be a really good team and maybe give them a little bit of a different flavor with their defense, because their defenses are usually pretty bad. Like good talent there, but they never produce like a good defense. So honestly, I'd go with Brent Venables just because I think he's learned so much from Dabo from a leading perspective, a recruiting perspective, and I just think he's a really good coach. I think Oklahoma's defense has been okay this year, and I think it's going to get better. So
I specifically tried to choose disciples. So I tried to choose a Saban disciple, a Dabo disciple, and a Kirby disciple, and to see where, because it's more interesting than saying Alabama, Clemson, or Georgia. So
right.
I just thought I'd see what you would take out of the three.
Who would you choose?
Honestly, probably the same thing. I haven't seen enough from Billy Napier. He played at he was at Louisiana, which take that how you will. And now he's kind of iffy with Florida. Great week one, and then everything else has been I think he's a good offensive-minded coach, but I don't think he's well-rounded to be a head coach. And I would say the same for Dan Lanning. Dan Lanning is really great at defense, I think. But his offense, as we saw against Georgia, anemic. He's not enough well-rounded. But I think Venables kind of got the best of both worlds by being Dabo's like number one guy. So he learned kind of everything, because if you think about it, Napier was a head coach, kind of have to do everything. Lanning was the defensive coordinator. That's pretty much all he did. But Venables with defense and offense and being there for so long and soaking up so much, I think that's why I'd take Venables, actually, come to think of it, because the other two didn't stick around long enough to actually take so much. But Venables has been there forever.
I feel like Venables is the Kirby Smart of Clemson. You know what I mean? I think Venables and Kirby Smart. Like, I'm not saying he's going to be like Georgia, but like in terms of like soaking up everything, being the right hand man, I would say Venables for a while has been that guy for Dabo, and that's kind of why I'm like, maybe he could lead a really good program. Oklahoma gave up 13 the first game, 3 the second, and 14 the third. I know they're horrible teams, UTEP, Kent State, Nebraska, but still, like, I feel like even last year they probably couldn't do that a whole lot. Let's see, their first couple games last year, 31 to Houston, 14 to UCLA, 20 to Kansas. Like, seems a little bit better. So, I don't know. I think that division, that conference, giving up points just their MO. But I do think he'll be able to inject some different schemes and different talent levels into that Oklahoma defense to give them a leg up on their competition. So
yeah, I'd love to see it. I'll tell you that. So I think we'll see it in the future. But for right now, I mean, Oklahoma just hasn't played anybody. Like, it just hasn't been impressive yet. If they start stomping everybody in the Big 12 like that, then yeah, I'm scared, because Texas gave us a run for our money, and if Oklahoma looks real, stay in the Big 12. That's don't come to the SEC. We're good with you in the Big 12.
Yeah.
But anyways, yeah, guys, that is going to wrap us up for this week. Again, we are the Jocks of All Trades podcast. Check us out on Facebook, YouTube, Spotify, and Twitter. They're all at the top. Look at me. I'm so smart. Anyways, we'll see you next week. Thanks for hanging with us. Bye, guys.
See ya.